got a really awesome birthday gift. I got to ride on the steam locomotive for my 17th birthday. How cool is that? I have a whole bunch of footage I'm planning to do. I'm super excited. I'm really happy. So I got to ride on a 1916 era steam train. So thank you guys and enjoy the show. Thank you guys. Awesome. Woo.
Your birthday today? Hey, good job. Happy birthday. Nope.
If there's any members
Thank you.
Whoa, that was hot.
engineer speaks to people through the whistle, and that one was to the general public. It's Morse code, long, long, short, long, which is the code for the letter Q. We became very popular with the letter Q last year because it stands for quarantine. In England, they would say, the crossing belongs to us, the railroad, we blow the horn, quarantine. We are quarantining the crossing for our use only. You stay there, you lose. When we're finished, we'll let you have it. Trains don't like hills, what are we doing? Trains don't like corners, what are we doing? The wheels and the rails complain on tight points, and the engine complains about the hill. We have many crossings. You'll hear quarantining code over and over, but each time it will probably sound different. And why? We have up to 8 people in the cab of the locomotive. Some of them are wanting to be engineers, and they have to start out, they get to blow the whistle. And in real life, certified engineers all blow that code differently. You can get used to the way they blow, and you will not have to know who's at the wheel. Number 7 had 6 sisters, named 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. They all came first, she came last. They're gone, she still exists. What did those 7 sisters do? Well, let me tell you. I remember World War II. These girls remembered World War I. They were working together in the yards on the east coast of the United States, working up trains, one car at a time. And all these cars contain munitions. That's a fancy word for things that explode. They were sending them to support the war.
Oh no! You're on. That's scary.
We have another sign in this coach, put up by the Health Department of the state of Michigan. It says, "Don't spit on the floor." Well, back in those days, men liked to chew, and they were doing that all the time, and it was unhealthy for all the rest of the people. They probably got sicker too. So there's a healthy fine for that, but most of us don't do that anymore. But I visited the country of Singapore. It's a small city-state, a dictatorship with a benevolent grandfather in control. And he said, please, quit spitting on the sidewalk. Do I have to remind you twice? All right, that's it. If I find you spitting on the sidewalk, I'm going to have you beaten with boards. He meant it. And later, he was finding chewing gum on the sidewalk. He says, cut that out. Well, they didn't. So he banned all chewing gum from the country. There's none there anymore. If you bring it in, it's like bringing in drugs. A few years back, we had 2 teenage boys from the United States go to Singapore, and they didn't believe the rules, and they got beaten. And everybody said, hey, they knew the rules. They had it coming.
They have the 5 wheels in the middle. Might not have bigger and wheels. So, guys and gals like to talk about it. She talked about home. Talks about an engine like this. No wheels in front, 4 wheels in front, 4 wheels in back. That is the whole. This engine is a Jordan. He is number 7. A family of 7 sisters. 6 were born before he was. I can remember World War II.
So we have another train called the Spirit of Traverse City. It's a tinier train, but it's steam and it's free. And when I was a little tyke, I was born in Traverse City, and that's where that train was, and I rode that train. Now it's here.
Back when it was coal? Because it was running off of coal, didn't it?
Yeah. You see, the United States had lots of trees, and in the early days, all locomotives ran wood for fuel. And then as we pushed west, we discovered coal. And the railroad said, if you want us to go west, you give us the coal. And they owned the coal and the government.
They're going to try to get it on.
Of course.
They said, the guy that gave it to him, he said, you guys got to get it on.
Trains go that way, and then they back up and go the other way. Well, when you're a commuter train, there are no turnarounds. And people don't like to ride backwards. So the seats here have back seats that will fold so you can be riding forward whichever way you want to go. This is the original. This is the original upholstery from 1927. Holding up pretty good. It's getting pretty thin. But we don't have a volunteer who does upholstery. If we did, we'd change it.
So this was a logging car. When we got it, we put sides and a roof on it. We had a big home here, and all you guys would face that way. All you guys would sit on and face that way. We have a town nearby called Misik, and they have a public school system. When they got rid of the school buses, they would take the
You still make them like that.
Siete papás.
The early locomotives ran on wood. Wood is very good.
In the early days when I was young, we had one of 5 men who had to be on top of the train. He was called the brakeman because we didn't have brakes on the locomotive. And the brakes that were on the cars, he went to that end of the car and then this end of the car, and there was a big wheel, and he would turn it, and there was a rod that went down by the tracks, and there was a chain winding around the rod, and the chain was pulling the brakes up against the wheels.
How rude.
He'd pull it up a little bit, go
How rude.
to the other end, do the next, go all the way down the train. And he would be able to stop the train on the dime that way. But we had to invent something else because he had to be up there when it was snowing and raining, and there was a little tiny sidewalk made out of wood, and he would slip and fall dead. They died. Lots of men died trying to do that job. So we had to invent something called air brakes. And it's the same thing on semi-trucks. And if you've been riding down the road on an expressway and you see a line of black, the air brakes fail. And the way they work is the brakes are on all the time, and you pump up the air to push the brakes loose. If you lose the air, they lock up. And all the tires on the trailer lock up and make these streaks down the road. But if they are dash marks, trailer was empty and it's bouncing down the road. So that's kind of the story, a little bit, of air brakes. Trucks and trains, same way. This train has a compressor on the front that is run by steam, and it compresses air and keeps the brakes off. So a day ago we had some trouble. This car didn't want to move. We had a leak. Nobody could find it. So we had to take everybody out of this car and drive it with no weight and fight the brakes. But we finally gave up. The engineer said, that's it, you can go home early. We'll figure it out tonight. In life, stuff happens.
Oh
You
yeah.
have to deal with it. Yep.
You can't just go to any hardware store and get those parts. You can't. You have to make them yourselves, right?
When I was a young man, I worked in a foundry. And we had a farmer come to us and say, I've got this old tractor part and you can't get them anymore. And it's broken, but I have all the pieces. Can you make one just like it? Sure, because we had 2 men from the really old days. Because this was a high production plant. We couldn't do it with those. But the guys that knew the old ways, and they put all the pieces together and put them on top of a box of sand. And the box of sand had oil in it to make it all stick. And they pressed it down. And then they picked all the pieces up and they went over to another box and turned it over and pressed it into that one. When you take those 2 and put them together and pour iron in there, you got the new part. And we did it for them for free.
Well, that's why I don't wear makeup in hot weather.
Can't do it anymore because nobody knows how. Because even though I made it sound simple, it ain't.
It's hard.
And here's a story, something you should remember. No project is as simple as it first appears. Every time it turns out to be more difficult.
Oh yeah. out here. Awesome. Oh, looks so cool.